Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Teray,
Here.
Mrs. Roop,
Here.
Dr. Hall, Mrs. Gasparo,
Here.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Albrecht,
Here.
and Mrs. Galbraith is here.
Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Nelson, would you read the mission statement, please?
Certainly. Our mission statement: to ensure that every child is challenged to reach his or her full potential academically, socially, and emotionally as they grow and develop into thoughtful, productive, and contributing members of society.
Very good. Thank you. Tonight we have Monee Elementary School here with us for the Good News Report, and they're going to talk about the Crete Monee football volunteers at Monee Elementary School. Mrs. Jones, Dr. Vaughn, do you want us to come out there? Do you have a presentation or?
I know, yeah. If you'd like to, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm short. I'm gonna do something. Does this come out? I'm too short. Good evening, everyone. We want to thank you for letting us come tonight and share something that is very special to us. And actually, as I think back over the years, we have had a couple different times when students from the high school would come over to help our kids. But this year, Matt Slusher, who is our PE teacher, came to us with an idea. And he said, what about if the football players come and help out in the classrooms? Well, we never say no to help. It's always yes. And kids look up to other kids. So we were very happy to say absolutely yes. And we know that we're going to see more of them. But at this time, I think I would like Mr. Slusher to just say a couple things about how he came about this.
Good evening. I probably don't need to talk with the. Yeah. Oh, I do. I'm sorry. I just wanted to. This is my second year in the school district. Second year at Monee. My second year coaching football at the high school, and I thought it'd be a great idea to kind of bridge the two gaps together since we're a community district. And with this being my second year, being more familiar with our program and our community, knowing that we have some younger brothers and sisters that I teach at Monee while I also coach some of the older brothers on the football team, and just wanted them to have an opportunity to come back to Monee and volunteer their time with the younger students in our building, be positive role models for them, give our kids an opportunity to be mentors, be leaders within the community, and give our kids something to strive for and look up to. The kids, when they first walked in on a couple Mondays ago, the kids were so excited. They wanted to know everything about who these football players were. They couldn't believe that they were football players. They thought some of them were basketball players, but they were incredibly excited. And not only were our kids excited at Monee, going to football practice that same day and hearing, our players that went, how excited they were to be a part of the program and be in the classroom with the kids was very rewarding for me as a educator and as a coach, but also I think it's going to be very rewarding for our players as well. So it's something I'm looking forward to continue.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said that better, Matt. Again, a great big thank you to those of you who are able to join us, and we know we're going to see you more as often as possible is great. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I just wanted to recognize the people, our football players that showed up tonight. We have Isaiah Rucker, AJ Martino, Tyler Mays, Jaleel Holloway, Joshua Tomas, and then we're missing a few others, Ricky Johnson and Jalen Howell couldn't make it tonight.
We're standing over here.
I won't make it.
All right, I'll run over there then.
Okay, thank you.
We're busy.
Okay. Another day in paradise.
Board members, comments? Start with Cheryl.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you guys so much for doing that. It was a wonderful idea. And a lot of times we have good ideas, but we don't make them come to fruition. So I congratulate you on doing that. I hope you keep it up. I had the opportunity to be with some of the guys this Saturday for our community cleanup, and I thought it was a great time. A bunch of good guys on the football team. Very proud of you guys, both on and off the field, and just keep it up. Mhm.
Thank you very much. I would like to encourage all the participants in our school on every activity and team to follow your lead and get involved with the kids. These activities and sports are the best thing going. I had 3 sons, and they were all male, and sports kept them out of trouble and got them a good education, and they're still contributing to the community. One of them is teaching in our school district. So keep up the good work, guys, and be a good mentor for these young men and women. They need people to look up to. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to extend my thank you as well. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and when you see the smile on the kids' faces when you guys showed up, that says it all, so thanks.
I agree with my colleagues. I would also like to thank our coaches. If it wasn't for our coaches wanting to be involved in all this, so it made a huge difference. I also was involved in the community cleanup last Saturday, and I see some friendly faces out there from Saturday. As bad as the weather was, not one complaint. I have had lots of feedback from people who actually saw the young men and ladies out there cleaning up and stopped and talked to them and asked them what they were doing and why they were doing it. And nothing but positive feedback about what a great group of young people they are and what a great example they're setting. So I would like to thank you for that effort that you also made. But Nelson's right, to see these pictures, I hope that we can make this grow and that we can get it into other schools. I can remember, believe it or not, back to when I was young, and this is what we did. We had our older kids helping our younger kids. Some of them may be your brothers and sisters, and there's no better way to give back than to give back to your community. So thank you very, very much.
First and foremost, I would like to appreciate or acknowledge our class act principal, Principal Jones, and her assistant principal, Dr. Vaughn, and last but not least, the coaches. So thank you, all of you, for doing a magnificent job. And our young men that's playing football, just as you knock down those opposite players, the opposition down, so you can keep going with the ball to reach the goal. You do the same with your educational process. Any barrier that comes your way, you knock it down. Education is power. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for everything that you've done for the students at Monee Elementary. I know that we are warriors, but you guys are pioneers. You're doing something that somebody else hasn't done before, and I hope to see this program expanded. As Mrs. Jones said, volunteers are not turned away, and that's not just at Monee Elementary School, it's in all of our district schools. So thank you very much, boys, for everything you've done. I know how much the students enjoyed it and look forward to it. Coaches, thank you. Mr. Slusher, fabulous idea, thank you. And Mrs. Jones and Dr. Vaughn, thank you for allowing this to happen. Thank you very much. Public comment. We have a lot of public comments to get through tonight, so we are going to limit it to 3 minutes. Please remember that if you have a group of people here for the same thing, that we need to have you elect one spokesperson. I do see that there are several comments about dance team. So if you can talk amongst yourselves and decide who's going to speak, that would be wonderful. I would greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, our first public comment comes from Katrina Johnson, and it is regarding faculty retention and minority persistence in STEM. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello. It's good to see you all again. I just, wanted to mention a study that I was, reading your consent decree. And I just wanted to bring to the attention of the board this longitudinal study that was put out by Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And it talked about persistence rates of minorities and women in STEM. And it says that that the more AP classes you can expose minorities and women to, the higher their grades, the higher their SAT scores, the less likely they will be to slide away from a STEM major in college, because they found that these groups, especially the African-American groups, changed majors in college. And that's one thing that I do. I teach college biology, so I see this. So I put a link to these articles on your website for you to read them in its entirety. It's about 39 pages with the tables and charts, what have you. But one thing that it says is that these minorities, they need to see people that look like them. And the more you can do, to encourage them, towards STEM, the more likely they are to stay, with that. So I'm just a little bit concerned, at what these students of color are seeing. They're losing the people that look like them. They're getting ready to lose a superintendent. They lost the principal, they lost the wrestling coach. So I just wanted to, just point out, that, when students can't see people that look like them, this could affect their encouragement, about themselves. I've had the privilege to work in some of the top labs, in the world. And, they say that the future belongs to India and China. What I don't see in those labs, are Americans. And nationally, we're at the bottom in terms of being internationally competitive. So I just wanted to encourage the board, to become aware, that the more encouragement that you can provide in STEM, the better the likelihood of encouraging that American innovation, because these scientists and researchers, they're born and not made. I'm a scientist by profession. I knew, like my field when I was in high school, and I'm a product of those teachers, who did whatever they, could do just to encourage me. My favorite teacher, Dorothy Sarmiento, I'm a product of those teachers. So I just wanted to share that and to direct your attention to these articles that I have provided a link to on your website. I have to finish sending it, but they will be there for you to read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just keep track here.
Okay. Where is he? Reverend Dr. James Hunt regarding board policies and processes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, board and staff and ladies and gentlemen. I come again standing to voice my concern regarding Superintendent Cunningham, Dr. Cunningham. I'm asking without equivocation that you would reinstate him to full service as superintendent. I'm concerned by the lack of transparency. I understand the things that go on in closed meetings, but you serve the community. And I know you serve your district, but you serve all the community. That includes University Park, Park Forest, Monee, and Crete. And this is a diverse community. And I'm concerned that the needs and the concerns of all the community are not being considered. And so I strongly urge you to reconsider any decision that you have or that you're going to make regarding Dr. Cunningham. Since he's been here, all he's tried to do is put this community together. He's recognized the diversity of this community. And I think to lose him would be to lose a gem. And so I strongly urge you to look at this. And I'll leave you with this. One of the things that has seemingly divided our nation has been actually the National Football League, the observance of the Star-Spangled Banner. And I think that we have failed to take into account the reason folks do what they do. I'm reminded that the first couple words of the Star-Spangled Banner says, "Oh, say, can you see? Oh, say, can you see?" And when Francis Scott Key wrote those words, he was looking up and looking at the magnificence of what was going on in the fight, in the battle. And what I'm asking you to do, I'm asking you, oh, say, can you see? Can you see the concerns of the rest of the community? You serve a big community, not just a few special interests. And I urge you to take a bigger look. Oh, say, can you see all the concerns of this community? And I say that not only as a pastor, and and not only looking for the goodness of this community, but I say this as a 20-year veteran. I honorably discharged from the United States Navy. And so again, I urge you to strongly reconsider any decision to let Dr. Cunningham go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cynthia Hudson regarding district concerns. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Hudson, and I've been in this district for many, many years. And I find myself revisiting the same stuff over and over and over that should not even be in the district. I'm constantly hearing basically it seems like everyone coming up to the podium, we all have the same concerns. My concerns for this district is, first of all, the lack of hiring of minority staff. You have the majority of your students that is minority. And just as Mrs. Johnson stated before me, the students need people who look like them to be in those buildings. When they have concerns, when they have problems, they need to be able to go to someone who looks like them, who relates to them. I've asked many times over the years for the staff to have diversity training and sensitivity training, because a lot of the staff that we have in this district now do not relate to children of minority. Some of them do not want to relate to the children of minority. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with not only the non-hiring of minority staff, I have a problem with every time you turn around, you may hire them, but they don't last long. Why is it that the previous years, I believe the superintendents, they were given contracts and they would be on for years? Why is it my understanding that Mr. Cunningham's contract was only for 1 year? Or am I wrong on that? So why is it that he didn't get multiple years on his contract? I would like to know the reasons for the board's decision to place him on administration leave when our scores have went up in the district, discipline has went down in the district. I would like to know, what reasons do you have to place someone who's seems like he's leading the district in the correct direction? We want the students' grades to go up. We want the discipline to go down. You know, I have a lot of concerns, you know, this, what do you call it? The investigation of the students. You know, is there a reason why you all chose to do this? I would like to see the money spent in the classrooms on the students instead of targeting the students. And to me, it seems like going after the students. You all were stating about you support your coaches, but yet and still you have the wrestling coach who's also being terminated or let go. He's a coach that the students related to. They looked up to him. They went to him. So, you know, why let him go? What's the reasoning for that? You know, I have a lot of concerns, like I said, and we're revisiting the same issues of the dissent decree. As you all know, I'm one of the original plaintiffs in the dissent decree. We don't need to keep revisiting these same issues over and over and over again.
Thank you, ma'am. That's time.
Okay, I just wanted to say one more thing. If you're on that board, you should be representing all of your students, not just some. Thank you.
Thank you. James Young, trustee from the Monee Township Government. Good evening.
Good evening, President Gasparo, members of the board, administrators, teachers, and community residents. At the last board meeting, I asked that you view me as an educator as well as a former parent who had 3 children come through this school district. Okay, well, this time I come to you in a different light. I come to you as an elected public official, as a trustee of Monee Township government, and we represent the villages of University Park, Monee, and the Will County areas of Park Forest, all of which feeds into the school district. I was totally shocked to hear that the majority of members on this board voted to place Dr. Cunningham on administrative leave. I sat right here in the audience and I heard it. I saw it for myself. I had heard different things about it. But what upset me is that I got the impression that you have forgotten about the good of what he has done. That was the first thing. The second thing is that it was brought to my attention a letter that was written by you, President Gasparo, sent to all members of the staff. And I'm not going to belabor my comments about it, but as I read that letter that was sent to all members of the staff, my antennas went up because I got highly upset and alarmed by it. First of all, that letter did not need to go to all members of staff because they don't report to Dr. Cunningham. I can understand assistant superintendents, I can understand department heads being made aware that he has been placed on leave, but not the entire staff. In my opinion, that letter was not only an insult to the entire Crete Monee School District 201U community, but it was also a letter of intimidation full of malice. And that letter of intimidation was directed to those Caucasians that support Dr. Cunningham. And it was full of malice because it was an insult to the African-American community. I served with Dr. Cunningham on the Community Relations Committee. He is not the only superintendent I worked with. When Dr. Roberta Berry was our superintendent, she had a problem with Hickory Elementary School about the academics. She reached out to the community. I served on that committee. Now we have Coretta Scott King. When Dr. John Rogers was trying to recognize the members of the 212-213 football championship team, and he sat right in this board meeting and said that not everybody may receive a ring, he reached out to the community. Every one of those football players received a championship ring, okay, because he reached out. And that's what I want to encourage this board to do. If you have a problem with any administrator, with teachers, reach out to the community and let us help you solve them. We have some educated people in this community that knows how to take care of business. That's my first comment about Dr. Cunningham. Second thing is that I'm concerned about this private detective agency that has been hired by this board, the majority of members of this board, to do residency checks. For what? I read the website of the proceedings of this board, and I saw the comments that was made by administrator. I would like to see the evidence that indicates that students are not in compliance with the residency, because I don't understand how they can be registered as students and be in violation. If our staff is doing what they're supposed to do, if administrators are doing what they're supposed to do, how can they be out of compliance?
That's time, sir.
Okay, but let me finish this comment. I am concerned about how the parents' rights and the students' rights are going to be protected, because some of the things I read about the private detective agency that's on the Crete Monee website are very alarming. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Christy Dixon regarding request to begin practice and conditioning in preparation for wrestling season and allowing Coach Burchett the opportunity to discuss head coaching staffing situation with the board members. Good evening.
Good evening, board. Good evening to everybody. I know you guys are looking at us. I'm Christy Dixon. This is my husband, LaJohn. And you're like, oh, here she comes.
Ma'am, you need to
again.
address your
Here
questions
she comes
to the
again,
board.
talking about Coach B and that, you know, what happened to our wrestling coach. But tonight, I have a little bit of a different perspective. I mean, yeah, we believe that Coach B ought to be allowed to speak to the board, at least to discuss the position. But it's a little bit different now. We've been talking about this for a month or better, and we haven't even gotten any response from the board. So tonight, my request to the board is for some action. I'm just asking, what is it that we need to do in order to get the board to take some action to help us in this situation? So we're parents at the school, we're members of the community, we own in the Crete community, and we have a problem. We have kids that attend this high school, and they're a part of the wrestling program. They've been on the wrestling program for 3 years. Some of them, 1, 2 years. But this wrestling program is the athletic program that they chose. And this program is not going. Our kids are being put in an unsafe position because they're gonna, when it's time for competition, they're not gonna be properly conditioned. Furthermore, they're not being made to feel like they're a part of this school or like their opinions are valued, or they're not even learning how to handle issues in a democratic way. They're not even learning how this board works. And I know that there's a member of the audience who spoke in one of the last meetings who said, hey, you guys have come out of the woodworks, all of a sudden you're coming to the board meetings. I've never seen you guys before. Now all of a sudden you want your head coach and here you come to the board meetings. Well, you know what? Yeah, we are here. But we're here because we have something to say. We have a problem. And we were told that this is the way to get some action, that this is the process. And since we've been coming here, not one person has reached out to us with an answer. We visited the school. We talked with the athletic director, with the principal. We've held meetings. We made phone calls. We've sent emails. We've wrote letters. We've held up signs. We've attended the board meetings. We've requested assistance. Nobody's told us how do we get that. So my question to the board is, what is next? I get that for whatever political reasons you have, you refuse to allow Coach B to be in the position of head coach. But what I don't get is, why aren't you seeking out another head coach? What are our kids gonna do? I just don't believe that if it was any of your kids that were on this wrestling team, you would allow this wrestling team to just not exist all of a sudden because you don't have a head coach.
Ma'am, that's time. Thank you.
Thank you. My last statement is that I just want to know, I need an answer. I want to know how to get an answer.
Is this the correct email address for you on here?
Yes,
I will
it is.
reach out to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have Angel Craft regarding the dance team and why it's not being able to perform at any football games as contract states. Welcome.
So good evening, and my name is Kathy Collins. I live in the community. This is my student. I first want to, when I was thinking about what the young lady said about opinions not mattering, when my student, it took a lot for me to get her to even join anything. So once she did that, I started sending out posts and everything because I was so proud. I was so happy that I got this teenager, and we all, if you had any experience with teenagers, know how happy and proud I was. So the first games that I went to, I videotaped everything. She comes back with all this money. It costs so much money. I'm like, okay, no matter what it takes, I want to make this happen. Because when I think about the team aspect, I think about a group of people who get together. They do things together, right? They talk all the time. They hang out, not just during practice or the games, but they communicate with each other outside of that. So when she said to me that I feel like our opinions aren't heard and people aren't listening to us, I said to her, you have to be wrong. I've been in Crete. I built in Crete 11 years ago. I already had a daughter to graduate from Crete, Monee, and I said to her she had to be wrong. And when I continue to hear it, and then I see a coach that, in my opinion, has done everything to keep these girls together and to keep them, listen, we know there's so many things that teenagers can get into. To know that she's here from 5 to 8, and when she gets home, she's too tired to do anything but go to bed, that gives me great joy. To know that these girls that are with her right now are her friends, and as parents, I'll pick her up, I'll drop them off, that makes me feel good. To know that the school that she represents and that she's going to graduate from, and that she's an honor student at, that she's a part of, and her family can come and see her, perform at these football teams, that I thought when we first signed up that she was going to be, she was going to be able to perform. It wasn't until lately that I understood that they can't. So I also understand that they don't have a place that they can perform in. So I don't, for me, they don't have a place in the school that they can, well, they're not performing either because they're not performing as was discussed. And I think that, when I think about almost $1,000 that I've spent this year, maybe I would have taken her to a dance school outside of Crete, Monee, had I known that it wouldn't give her the same.
Did you just say $1,000?
The uniforms were $300. You know what? Let me give you my email. So you can email me and I can give you the expense report for that, because it has been a lot of money. And I don't mind the money when I know that she is going to be with a group of girls that she is building relationships with for the rest of her life. When she is somewhere where I can look on 360 and I see that she's at school, I'm with Malaysia, I'm with Lele, that makes me feel good. I love Crete, Monee, but I want to make sure that when I think of a team, because I was on a cheerleading team, and we didn't even get to do, our coach was nowhere near involved as she is. Now, granted, that was a long time ago, but Coach Brown keeps these girls together. On a Saturday morning when I'm off, I don't want to get up and drive to a car wash, because that's something that Coach Brown wants them to do to keep them involved and to get donations, for additional things. So my question is, and I'm going to give you my email address, if we can just make sure that we consider them a team, because teams are people who do things together, they stay connected, it's all positive, and they give back. So, she goes to things in the community to help volunteer and all kinds of things. This is really a positive thing, and I don't know why the coach isn't here. I don't know all the other aspects of it, but I know it has been a good thing for me. It has been a good thing for my student. It has been a good thing for these young ladies. And all we're asking as parents is that you consider them a team, or let us know what we need to do to make them a team. So therefore, they can perform and they can do the same things that the cheer team and every other team. Love what you guys were doing with the football team. I was amazed by that.
Okay,
I want that
ma'am.
same recognition and I close with, I want the same recognition for my student and these young ladies. CATHEY. Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Angel? Who's Angel? So the other, and then Malay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are taken care of. I can just put I'll put all your public comments together.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have Ebony Rucker regarding a few positive questions. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you folks? I just had a few questions. I know that you can't answer questions, and I'm fine with that. But I still would like my questions answered via email if possible. The first question is, the boys were here, football team. They did an outstanding job. They've always done an outstanding job. They didn't have a banquet last year. They didn't get their lettuce last year. Why is that? The second question I have is, what needs to be done to obtain a FOIA report if you're seeking as a community member for some information in regards to situations that are going on? The next one is very near and dear to me, and I think it's really important. And if you can tell me who was the last principal to start with the class and finish with the class, and what year that was. I think that's a very important question and something that as a board you should look into. And then most importantly, the last two questions is when will the community be made aware of any findings or dealing with Dr. Cunningham and Coach Burchett? And lastly, and most importantly to me as coming from a home that pays tax dollars, is will stakeholders who are associated with Mr. Cunningham, or excuse me, Dr. Cunningham, misappropriations or whatever it was, will all stakeholders be held accountable for that? And will there be restitution given back? Thank you.
Thank you. Board updates.
Excuse me, that's the end of public comments. I just want to make sure that we are capturing these public comments. And we need to let the public know, because we're up here, they're seeing us as being like a deer looking at headlights. So what is the process? Can you explain to the public, what is the process for their concerns being addressed in some manner? I thought we was putting the questions on the website.
Yeah.
They could go on the website with the answers the best we could give them the answers.
Public comments are put on the website, and tomorrow, I believe Terry will put a list of all the public comments together, and it will go to the cabinet. And then from there, the cabinet will, if there is a question that requires a response, the cabinet will. Dr. Clark, could you touch on that for us, please? You know the process better than I do.
Actually, you were right on target. So yes, we do. Terry takes every public comment and she types those questions up. She sends it out to all of the assistant soups. We do respond in writing to her so that she can put the public comments up on the screen with the answers to any questions that they may have.
And what is the time frame to do that after a board meeting? I thought we had agreed upon a time frame.
Within 14 business days.
Thank you. And one other thing, just for clarification's sake, I heard, not this meeting, but the last board meeting, regular board meeting, I heard one of the board members say that it is the position of the board to not comment, or the policy of the board to not comment on public comments. I believe that's a false statement. So if we want that to be a board policy, we need to look at that and revisit that and implement it. We got a board that can do it. So I say, if that's what we want, we need to vote on it and get it in our policy. So if it's something I'm missing, please share it with me, that it is a board policy to not comment on public comments. I looked up, back, sideways, and did not find it.
Thank you. We'll put that on the agenda for the November Committee of the Whole. I know it is a past practice, whether it isn't a policy, but it is past practice. And it is something that we have discussed as a board.
Absolutely, but we can't, when you talk about a policy and talk about past practice.
Duly noted.
And I challenge all board members, if there's something that we feel passionate about and something that we want to do, we feel it's best to do it as a board, we put it in a policy and let the policy drive our actions.
I agree. Thank you. Board updates. I wanted to acknowledge all of our principals. It is Principal Appreciation. I guess it is a month, but then this is Principal Appreciation Week, and Friday is Principal Appreciation Day. So I just wanted to thank all of our principals. I know how hard you all work. I know the district is, you have a principals meeting, I believe on Thursday. We will be recognizing all of our principals there. So for all of our parents out there, you know, it might be a nice idea if you drop your principals a note, let them know, you know, how much you appreciate them, because we do. I know we have one principal and one assistant principal in the audience. I can't see out there if we have any more, but thank you for all you do. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Any other board updates?
I'm not sure if it's an update, but I'm looking for an update, and I don't want it to wait until old business or new business, but I had brought this out a couple times about what are we doing with the issue of having some type of awareness to our students, probably faculty as well, when it comes to students understand what hate groups are and what they do. We were supposed to come up, the administrative team was supposed to come up with some process to implement to the students to tell them that this is a hate group, this is what they stand for, because there was issues of students not aware of different hate groups out there. That seems to be a no-brainer to me, what they stand for. And that was talked about at a board meeting, and I thought we all agreed upon that. So we didn't get any update last board meeting, so I'm looking for an update as opposed to me giving out an update.
I know that the high school does something for that. Can we bring in, or at your meeting with the principals this week, can you ask them to put a summary together of the things that they do in their schools and get it back to us, and we can look at it at our November committee of the whole meeting?
Yes.
And then if there's something that we need to do district-wide, I know we need to do different things for the younger kids as opposed to the older kids, but we can come up with something. I mean, we have some pretty bright people in our district. We can come up with something.
No problem.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you?
Okay. We need to identify the groups also. What
Okay.
he's looking for is identifying the groups and then what we're doing to help our students and staff deal with that awareness once they're made aware of these groups. How do we deal with it? What do we do?
So define,
Yeah.
identify,
I remember.
Yeah,
define,
think-
identify, and then how are we going to make them aware of them?
Yeah, for lack of a better phrase, I call it a causal factor, that you know something. It's almost a form of neglect. You know something and you don't do anything about it, and something happened. So we had issues out there where students allegedly did not know what certain groups stood for as far as a negativeness or hate position. And now for us, that's what we're in the position to do, is to cause our kids to learn. We already have been identified and told too that students was not aware of what these certain groups stood for, but yet they acted upon such discipline, I guess, or behavior. So it's up to us now that we know that they do not know what they stand for, to teach them and to show them. And we said we was going to do that. At least our superintendent Cunningham did. And I believe now you have the rim to take this baton and run with it, Dr. Clark.
I believe we can probably get Laura in on that too as part of curriculum. So, and Ken can find the money for it.
I will update the board, Mr. Brown.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
I will update the board with the information.
Are we looking like a month next board meeting, or?
We have
your
our
F- your
principals
F-
meeting on Thursday. So,
Okay,
I will have it on the agenda for the
thank you, appreciate it.
committee of the whole meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move. Second.
Dr. Clark?
Consent agenda approval begins with A, Superintendent. Number 1, regular meeting minutes of September 19th, 2017. 2, regular meeting closed session minutes of September 19th, 2017. 3, regular meeting of September 26th, 2017. 4, committee of the whole meeting minutes of October 10th, 2017. 5, committee of the whole closed session minutes of October 10th, 2017. B, business. Number 1, approve accounts payable agenda of bills. 2, approve payroll for September 2017. 3, approve treasurer's report September 2017. C, curriculum. 1, approve Crete Monee High School, Illinois High School Theater Festival trip, which is in Normal, Illinois. 2, approve CMMS Washington, D.C. trip 2019. And that concludes the consent agenda approval items.
And donations and acknowledgements.
Donations and acknowledgements, yes, thank you.
Okay. Questions? Can I get a roll call?
Did you have a question? No.
Oh, no
No,
question.
no question, okay. Mr. Brown?
Nay.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Rube? Aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Mrs. Galbraith is an aye.
Motion carries. District Affairs. Can I get a motion to approve the speed resolution?
Moved.
Second.
Dr. Clark?
Mrs. Gasparo.
The addition to this speed resolution basically states that now we need 2 board members to be part of this committee. We already have 1, and we need to add a second.
And this person will, second person, both representatives will have voting authority. However, we will still only have 1 vote.
That is correct.
So I had put a notice out asking if anybody wanted to do it. I will be more than happy to unless there's another school board member that wants to. Their meetings are on Thursday nights. Terry, did we ever figure out if it's the first Thursday of the month? Mike, do you know?
I believe it's the second, but I could be wrong. We'll have to contact Speed.
Second Thursday? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought too. So is there a school board member who would be interested in doing this?
Let me just, for clarification's sake, was this the group that at one point was challenged that we should not expend money on maintaining this group services? Was a couple months or so ago? Was this one of the groups?
No, I don't believe so. Speed
Okay,
is one
this-
of the organizations that we can send our special ed children
Okay,
to.
but that was not challenged, this group?
I don't believe so.
We had a couple groups.
No, that was Luda and some other group. I know.
That was Speed.
Scope.
Scope? Okay.
And
So
Luna.
we still have both of those groups?
Scope, yes.
Okay, we still have Scope and Luna. Okay. So Speed, Mr. Board Member Teray is a member right now. We're looking for another member?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
I would be able to do it as long as it's not the first Thursday.
Okay, we will look into that. And if Mrs. Roop, if it's not, I will be more than happy to do that. So, okay. I have a motion on the floor. Any other questions? Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Rube?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Mrs. Galbraith is an aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the employment of certified staff, the reassignment of certified staff, the leave of absence for certified staff, the return from leave of absence for certified staff, the intent to retire from certified staff, the resignation of certified staff, the dismissal of certified staff, the employment of educational support staff, the reassignment of educational support staff, the leave of absence for educational support staff, the return from leave of absence of educational support staff, the intent to retire of educational support staff, the resignation of educational support staff, and the dismissal of educational support staff.
Moved.
Second.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
In Mr. Neal's absence, Mr. Surma, can you read the Human Resources report, please?
I will. This is the personnel report for October 17th. Certified staff employment, Kelly Lafferty, Victoria McAndrew, Darlene Radford. Certified staff leave of absence, Tracy Rochetti, Rebecca Sambognero, Rena Taylor. Certified staff return from leave of absence, Rebecca Sambognero. Certified staff reassignment, Amber Caleros. Certified staff resignation, Andrew Pendelski. Educational support staff employment, Anisha Filia, LaWanda Jones, Tamika Quince, Stephanie Wilcoxon Jenkins. Educational support staff reassignment, Catherine McLean. Educational support staff resignation, David Pritchett, Brian Dalton, Sierra Porsche. Educational support staff intent to retire, Valerie Dillard, Gloria O'Neill, Carol Vandenberg. That's the report.
Thank you.
I have a question, and this is a general question regarding new hires. Can we say with 100% certainty that the new hires that is up to be approved tonight, have they worked at all prior to tonight? Have they put in any hours? Any employee that's on this to be hired, have they put in any hours prior to tonight?
I can tell you that there was a substitute teacher that was brought in, and there's also somebody that is being transferred from a different position. That's the only thing I can speak of.
Okay, Dr. Clark, are you aware of any employee other than what Ms. Gasparo mentioned just a moment ago, being employed without first being approved tonight?
I am not aware.
Mr. Brown, I believe that the two, I believe the two individuals, the certified staff at Crete Monee were hired as substitutes and were in a position of substitutes covering those classes and were paid as substitutes until such time that the board approved them as a certified staff. Once the board approves them, then they will be put on the appropriate pay scale and will be teachers, but they were substitutes in that class.
I believe one of them was, and one of them came from another district and
Okay.
has not started yet.
Has not started yet, okay. I think one of them, from what I understand.
Is that our practice? Is that follow VIA and administrative procedure?
I believe it does, because again, you have a class that is there that needs to be covered by someone. If someone has not been approved by the board, they would be hired as a substitute, or what we call a vacancy substitute, and then they would take that class until such time that either they or someone else is approved as a certified staff member for that class.
Yeah, I would like to look more into that at a later date, maybe to find out what our process, because for me, for lack of a better phrase, it seemed like a gangster move, that we're looking to hire someone and then we sneak them in as a substitute prior to coming to the full board for approval of his or her employment. So I need to understand that process a little better, and I want to know how that was followed.
Okay, so I hear two questions. You want the
You want to hear
process
three?
for,
I can throw another one out there too.
do you want the
Not being
process,
sarcastic, I'm sorry.
do you want the process for substitute teaching, or do you want the process for how we do new hires?
I want the process for, if we're looking to hire a full-time person and can we hire a substitute knowing that person is going to be a full-time person relatively in a short period of time? So I would think we have some processes or processes to cover that, to address that we just don't willy-nilly just have a blank statement out there and say, this is what we're going to do.
No,
Everything should be a standard out there.
We've talked about this in personnel committees and in when we've had other situations like this come up, and it is, I believe that Lyle said it is part of the administrative process.
I would think so. And
So-
if it's administrative process, I have no further input. I'm good with that. But it seems like this was somewhat of a gangster move.
Yeah, and it was also in two FYIs for us that this is what was going to happen, and unless said unless anybody has any objections, and there was none. So
Okay, just because it happened doesn't make it right. And just because we get a heads up doesn't make it right. So I just want to make things right here. So please, if you could bring that back to the board, the process for, as I stated earlier, what is the process for bringing we know we're going to hire a full-time employee. Can they sneak in somehow prior to us hiring them? And then and if so, which way? The way we did it, bring them in as a substitute, bring them in as a part-time employee, I don't know. But we knew we was going to hire, it sounds to me, these full-time employees over at Crete Elementary. But yet, we brought them in some less position other than full-time to be voted on tonight to become full-time.
I think the issue was, if I recall this right, Mr. Brown, that there was an overcrowding in the 3 grade levels and that they needed immediate help to get these people on board, and we couldn't get the clearances done for these people, all the background checks on the new hires before the last board meeting. So they allowed them to work as substitutes. They were all interviewed, because I know personally that my son was involved with some of the interview process over there. And they had 12 applicants, I believe it was, and they picked 3 applicants to fill these positions. So they were interviewed. They went through the process like we normally go through the process. So.
And Board Member Trey, I totally understand that these were well-qualified people ready to be voted on tonight to become full-time employees. I understand that, and I'm not challenging that in no way, shape, or form. But it seems like, again, the process was circumvent. If it's emergency, we deem it emergency, and it's something that should be documented in administrative procedure saying, in case of an emergency, give some examples, we can do this or we can do that. That's all I'm saying.
I will have those answers for you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Nay.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Mrs. Galbraith is an aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Do I have any old business?
I have one thing. Dr. Clark, you were on vacation last week. I hope you got some rest because I have plenty of questions. But one of them is regarding the FOIA that is still outstanding with the post office regarding a mailing that we did that did not get delivered, and it was just a total mess. So can you explain what's going on with that, please?
Sure. The FOIA was denied, so I got in contact with the attorney to make sure that I was accurate in the information I was requesting. I was. We have sent another documentation to them. They have 20 days to respond.
And just for anybody out in the audience that isn't aware of what's going on, I believe it was July. Was it about July that we did this mailing?
Well, I need to double check, but I think you're right.
We did a mass mailing to all of our families, and where I live, we never got the mailing. So I walked around my neighborhood and different areas that I know are on my route, and no one got the mailing. So we proceeded to go to the post office and say, hey, we paid for this mailing. It's not been delivered. They then, I think, told us they thought it ended up in the garbage or something. Every time we talked to them, it was a different answer. And it was a crucial mailing. It was an informational mailing. So I asked Dr. Clark and the staff to proceed with investigating this. Number one, why did this happen? But number two, there was a large cost involved in this. And how is the post office going to make it right? So we are still dealing with this just because they don't, I guess, want to give us an answer as to what happened and why they didn't deliver them. So that's what we're talking about here. It's been going on for a few months and we're still trying to pursue this because how many other mailings aren't getting out to where they need to go and parents aren't being informed or whatever. So we are pursuing this to the furthest degree that we can.
That is correct.
Any other old business?
Yes, I have a couple. I'm wondering, is Keith here tonight? There he is. Where are we at with the helper for the AC, air conditioning? We have the one gentleman.
Specialized maintenance. Was it the specialized maintenance that you were talking about?
Yeah, the specialized maintenance at AC, or are we going to get the helper we talked about in the committee of the whole?
That route, and I've actually been dealing with Prairie State. I got in touch with them. They actually have a work board. They have a career services center, and I basically just started this process with them. And they actually have this board that I think it goes to 26 different colleges. You can choose as many in this board as you want, a career board. And I've given them what we want, and we post the job position how we want it. And then, they through their different placement programs, that's where we're going to hopefully start getting applicants.
So what are we actually what are we going for? A
HVAC. I am looking for an
Fully
HVAC
qualified
person,
HVAC.
entry level, somebody that's hopefully got their certifications, but they're entry level. It was stated to me by our HVAC person that's in-house that even when he graduated, with high honors or whatever you want to call it, high grades. And he said that when he was first getting started, he had trouble finding a job because he didn't have the experience. We're hoping to maybe get somebody in here that doesn't have to have all the experience we need. He can train them. And of course, we don't pay what, they're going to pay in the field if somebody hires them into the industry. So that's, we're looking for that balance.
So Prairie State is receptive to this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are those postings local? Do you choose? When you said you choose, are we trying to stay local so that we can
I'm looking more
employ our
local
own?
right now. We'll see what the pool looks like. And
So where do these postings go? To other schools, or I'm unclear when you say they post it?
College job board. And they said, I believe they told me they have 26 different colleges that they are open to.
Okay, so you
Colleges,
chose where it
universities,
goes, or it automatically goes to those 26?
Well, I can say I just want to post to Prairie State if I want.
Okay,
You can get on and choose those.
okay. Do they charge for this?
No.
Okay.
No, because they have placement programs, so I'm sure they're happy to see that people are looking for, actually, if you get on and look at the program and start looking at the different Joliet Community College, Prairie State, all these colleges post what their placement is, and a lot of them are like 11%, 10%. So I'm sure that the more people out there that are looking for applicants, the happier they are.
I think it would be great if we could get somebody local and employ our own that has gone through some of our programs. So
Yep.
hopefully, thanks, Keith.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And I just have one more old business. On the September 19th meeting, we talked about the crowding at the middle school in the classrooms, and I asked if we could get a projected number of students coming in the pipeline so we know what to expect in the next half a dozen years or so. And I haven't seen that on the FYI. I hope someone's working on that. I know we're crowded now, but is it worth spending a couple of $1 million to build some more classrooms, and 6 years from now, the projected amount of students is way down? I have no idea what the pipeline looks like, so if I could get an answer on that and get it in the FYI.
Sure.
It would help me make any kind of decision in the future on space over there. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Neal and I have talked about probably the premier consultant for enrollment projections is Casarda, John Casarda, who is out of, I believe, Oklahoma, Texas area and that. So I've used him before in a couple districts that I've been with to look at enrollment projections. So I'm asking for a quote from him to do enrollment projections. He will project out. He actually looks at live births, gives you a few different scenarios in that. And so he usually projects out 10 years for you. So I'm going to get a quote on that. And then if I can fit it into the budget, I'll do that, because it'd be nice to have that as part of our planning process as we move forward.
No, no disrespect to you, business manager Sumer. We can't just keep fitting things in the budget. And I think the person to go to is our architect. Our principal, it's not a projection on how many students we're looking to have. The need is right now. The need was there before we start building that addition to the middle school. And for whatever reason, we chose not to add that addition. We lost the advantage for putting the footing in for future construction. So now what was once going to cost us a couple $100,000 might cost us $1 million to build the same size that's needed. Our principal for the middle school came here, I believe it was the 19th of September 2017, and she pled her case. She pled her case to us months ago, and it fell on deaf ears to the board. So that's the person you need to talk to now, the principal, and you need to talk to our architect, DLA, right now. The projection, that's a whole nother story, but we need something right now. Our kids, it's overcrowded over there. And we knew that, and the board failed to act. And I'm putting myself here as a board member, saying the board failed to act.
We are overcrowded at the middle school, but we're also need to make sure that we're not going to be overcrowded at our other schools. So my question would be, this service, do they take into account the vacant properties that are still yet to be built on? What all would be involved in that?
They take into account all of those things in that. So I actually have a sample of one, and I can share that with the board, a sample.
If you could put that in the
projection.
FYI.
I can put that in the FYI so you can see that and see what they do and how the projections are done and all of that. So I can share that with everyone, and so you can see that.
Worth looking at.
Yeah, and that.
Thank you. Other old business?
Just a couple of things here, and I think what got me to bring this out in old business, what was presented today in public comments, as far as I think the board need to do a better job. This is considered old business, to reach out to the community, let the community know what's going on. This is a big thing with the residency issue. It was a big thing with the wrestling coach. It was a big thing with the superintendent. I had people coming up to me asking me what's going on with the superintendent. I'm like, I don't have a clue. I know you had an update, President, at our last community as a whole committee, and I was not there. But nonetheless, prior to that meeting, to when the superintendent was first placed on administrative leave, there was no communication. So I thought what one board member knew, all board members knew, even from our legal counsel on down. That's how I thought. So if we can please ramp up our communication skills, you are the face of this board. So I heard from the public tonight.
With all due respect, Mr. Brown, we had a meeting and you left. We had a closed session and you left the meeting. So there was information given in that meeting. There was another meeting last week. We did not, other than me telling the board there was no update. That was the only update that we had.
So from that meeting that I left on, until now, there has not been any written communications from our legal counsel to you
Written communications?
or verbal.
We'll be more than happy to go into closed session and talk about
Please,
that with
please
you.
do.
Any other old business? New business? Can I get a motion to go into closed session? For the purpose of discussion on a specific employee.
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Is that reason, is that clear enough, Terry, Tobin, to you enough for a specific?
The purpose of discussing a specific employee.
Can that be read out, please?
Can I get a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel of the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, oh, that's it.
Moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. Mr. Brown, do you
Second.
want a second? Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Teray?
Nay.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye.
We are enclosed. Oh, there we go.
Albrecht moved.
Okay, Albrecht was first.
Yes.
Who's second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Brown? Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Mrs. Galbraith is an aye.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.